Arya Scarlett disembarked from the stagecoach in the Colorado Territory of 1878, tightly holding the letter that heralded a new husband and a fresh beginning. Yet Mason Brennan was absent, and in his forsaken cabin rested a baby, left without anyone to tend to him. She journeyed west, drawn by a single letter that led her to this place. Yet now she stood at a crossroads, confronted with a decision that would shape her future, devoid of any written guidance. The stagecoach jolted over another bump, causing Arya Scarlett's head to collide with the wooden wall, the impact ringing in her ears. Peering through the dust-laden window, she caught sight of mountains towering above any structure she had ever known in Chicago. In the year 1878, she embarked on a journey to a town named Millbrook in the Colorado Territory, destined to wed a man she had never encountered before. "Final destination, ma'am," the driver shouted from the front seat. His voice had a gritty texture, reminiscent of sandpaper gliding over wood. Arya's hands trembled as she adjusted her favorite blue dress. After 3 days of travel, it may not have been impressive, but it was everything she possessed. In her coat pocket, she brushed against the familiar edges of Mason Brennan's letter. He had penned such lovely thoughts regarding their future together, about the charming little house he was constructing, about the deep sense of loneliness he felt without a partner. The wheels of the stagecoach emitted a harsh grinding noise as they came to a halt. Arya seized her petite bag and descended onto a wooden platform that groaned beneath her steps. The scent of pine trees mingled with the warm aroma of smoke wafting from a nearby fireplace. The silence enveloped her, allowing the rhythmic thump of her heartbeat to echo in her ears. She scanned the surroundings for Mason. He had promised to be right here at the station, waiting. He mentioned that he had brown hair and would don his finest hat. However, the platform appeared nearly deserted. An elderly gentleman peruses a newspaper while a woman, accompanied by her 2 young children, tugs at her skirt. "Are you planning to return or remain where you are?" the driver inquired. He was in the process of retrieving her trunk from the rear of the coach. "Staying," Arya said, her voice barely above a whisper. The stagecoach departed, enveloped in a swirling haze of crimson dust. Arya stood solitary on the platform, clutching her bag firmly against her chest. Where could Mason be? Did something occur to him? Perhaps he simply ran behind schedule. The elderly gentleman with the newspaper raised his gaze to meet hers. "Are you waiting for someone, miss?" "Mason Brennan," Arya said. "Are you familiar with him?" The expression on the man's face shifted. He carefully folded his newspaper and rose to his feet. "I'm sorry, but it seems you missed him, miss. Jackson departed the town roughly 3 weeks ago, slipping away in the dead of night, leaving everything behind." Arya experienced a gut-wrenching sensation, as if she had been struck hard in the abdomen. Departed? Yet, today was meant to be our wedding day. "I truly apologize," the man expressed. He appeared uneasy, as if he longed to leave but was unsure of the way to do so. Jackson had debts to nearly everyone in town. Looks like he chose to flee rather than settle the debt. A woman approached with the children. She mentioned that her name was Ella. Her eyes were gentle, yet the lines of concern etched around them told a different story. "Are you referring to that mail-order bride Jackson was always mentioning?" Arya gave a thoughtful nod. She was on the verge of tears but managed to suppress them. "You can't just stand here," Ella remarked. "Let's go. I'll take you to Jackson's place. Perhaps you can determine the next steps from that point onward." They strolled along the bustling main street of Millbrook. The town was rather unremarkable. A general store stood alongside a saloon, a quaint little church, and perhaps 20 houses dispersed throughout the area. Mountains towered around us, imposing and formidable like colossal barriers. Arya had never encountered anything of such magnitude, nor had she ever felt so insignificant. As they strolled, Ella shared that Jackson resided in a cabin just beyond the town's edge, operated a mining claim that yielded minimal returns. "I've always harbored grand aspirations, constantly discussing the pursuit of wealth." Arya engaged her mind in contemplation. She had invested nearly all her funds in the train ticket heading west. She found herself without a place to turn and without the support of family to welcome her. She had lost her parents and left her factory job to arrive at this place. What shall I do now? She pondered more to herself than to Ella. "I'm not sure, darling," Ella replied. "Before anything else, you must take a look at what Jackson has left for you. They veered off the main street onto a slender path that wound its way into the trees. Arya's trunk rattled along in tow as Ella's husband maneuvered it on a wooden cart. The air turned crisp beneath the pine trees, and Arya caught the sound of a creak echoing from somewhere close by. "Look over there!" Ella exclaimed, gesturing forward. The cabin was quaint, its weathered exterior suggesting it had long been untouched by a fresh coat of paint. The panes were smudged, and unruly weeds thrived around the entrance steps. It appeared solitary resting there amidst the trees. With a gentle nudge, Ella swung the front door wide open. It was left unlocked. Within the cabin, shadows danced in the dim light, and the air was thick with the scent of aged tobacco mingling with an unfamiliar aroma that eluded Arya's senses. A single room contained a bed, a table, 2 chairs, and a fireplace. Clothes lay strewn across the floor, as if Mason had dashed out in a frenzy. "He gathered the majority of his belongings," Ella remarked, surveying the surroundings. "However, there is an additional detail you should be aware of." Arya's gaze was fixed on the scattered clothes on the floor when she suddenly heard it. A faint noise emanated from the corner of the room, reminiscent of a kitten's soft meow. However, it turned out not to be a kitten. In the corner, nestled within a well-worn blanket, lay a baby. Arya's breath hitched as she gazed at the small face emerging from the worn blanket. The infant possessed dark locks and the most striking blue eyes she had ever encountered. He gazed at her, his eyes dry, observing her with a solemn look that felt far too mature for his small features. "Whose little one is this?" Arya murmured softly. Ella stood awkwardly by the door. "I suppose that's something Jackson never shared with you in his letters. The child belongs to him. Benjamin is his name." "Does Mason have a son?" Arya experienced a wave of dizziness. She clutched the back of a chair for support. "Last year," Ella explained, "he had a woman living with him. She passed away while bringing the baby into the world. 3 days later, fever claimed her. Jackson attempted to look after the little one, but he struggled with it, often leaving Benjamin with neighbors while he tended to his claim." Arya crouched next to the improvised crib. It was merely a wooden box filled with blankets. The infant stretched out a small hand, and instinctively Arya allowed him to grasp her finger. His hold was unexpectedly firm. When Jackson took off, he simply abandoned Benjamin here. Ella pressed on. "I visit him twice daily to ensure he's fed and cared for, but with 4 kids already and another on the way, it's quite a challenge. I can't continue this for much longer." "What is his age?" Arya inquired. The infant clung to her finger, and she realized she had no desire to let go. "It's been around 6 months, I believe. Perhaps 7. He was incredibly tiny at birth, making it difficult to discern." Arya surveyed the dilapidated cabin. Scattered across the table were empty bottles, while a wooden bowl held a collection of dirty dishes. Droppings from mice found in the corners. This environment was utterly unsuitable for an infant. "What will become of him now?" she inquired. Ella paused in silence for a moment. "There exists an orphanage located in Denver. It requires approximately 2 days to reach the destination via stagecoach. Perhaps there's a chance someone in town could offer him a place, although it seems many people are already quite occupied with their own matters. A home for children without families." Arya had spent her childhood in one of those neighborhoods in Chicago. She recalled the endless lines of beds, the watery soup, the way the older kids bullied the younger ones, the constant scarcity of everything, particularly affection. Benjamin let out a soft sound and offered her a smile. He smiled genuinely, as if he recognized her. "He's hungry," Ella remarked. "I brought along some milk." She retrieved a bottle from her bag and offered it to Arya. "Are you looking to provide him with something to eat?" Arya had never fed a baby before, yet it felt instinctive in a way. Benjamin drank with enthusiasm, his small hands gripping the bottle tightly. Once he finished, he drifted off in her embrace, his head resting heavily on her shoulder. "How was she as a person?" Arya inquired softly. "His mother." "Lovely young lady." "Silent. She seemed to be fleeing from something in the eastern part of the country, if I'm not mistaken." She rarely shared details about her history. Jackson encountered her in the saloon, though she wasn't employed there or anything of that sort. "Just passing through and found myself caught when winter arrived unexpectedly." Arya gazed at Benjamin's peaceful, slumbering visage. He appeared serene at this moment, nourished and cozy. But what would become of him once she was gone? She would have to leave, wouldn't she? She found herself without funds, without a partner, and without a means to care for a child. I think it's time for me to leave, Arya said. Yet she remained still. Where will you venture next? Ella inquired softly. That was the question Arya had been desperately avoiding in her thoughts. I'm uncertain. Perhaps I could seek employment in the area while I gather enough funds to return east. What are you up to? Opportunities for women in this place are quite limited, mostly confined to laundry work or positions in the saloon, and you don't seem to fit the saloon mold. Arya realized that Ella had a point. Once more, her gaze fell upon Benjamin. His eyelashes were remarkably long. His small chest rose and fell with every breath. Arya mentioned that she could compose a letter to her sister in Kansas, although she had doubts about her sister's willingness to assist. It had been 2 years since they last exchanged words. It had been a long time since Arya had turned down the proposal from the man her sister had chosen for her. That could be a possibility, Ella remarked, though her tone lacked certainty. They lingered in quietude for a time. Outside, Arya listened to the melodic chirping of birds and the gentle murmur of the creek. Amidst the chaos, a serene calm enveloped this place. What if I decided to stay? Arya said unexpectedly. The words caught her off guard just as they appeared to catch Ella by surprise. Is this the right place? Inside Jackson's cabin? There's a need for someone to look after Benjamin, and I'm in search of a place to call home. Arya surveyed the cabin once more. It was modest and worn, yet it possessed a solid foundation. With a bit of tidying and some repairs, it has the potential to become a true sanctuary. Arya, dear, that's quite a significant choice. You lack any knowledge about caring for an infant, and the cold season is approaching. The chill here is intense, far more biting than anything you've experienced back east. I have the ability to learn, Arya stated. Regarding infants, I must say I have no fear of the chill. Yet, as the words left her lips, Arya couldn't shake the feeling that she might be stepping into a significant error. What was her understanding of infants? What insights did she possess regarding solitary life in the wild? Benjamin shifted in her embrace and blinked awake. Those blue eyes gazed directly at her, and Arya sensed a change within her chest, akin to a door swinging open that she hadn't realized was shut. I'll stay, she said, her voice steady for the moment, at least until I can decide what to do next. For the first time since Arya had met her, Ella smiled. Absolutely. If you're confident, I can assist you in getting started, gather some supplies, and demonstrate how to heat milk for the baby. My husband is able to assist with renovating the cabin a bit. Arya cast her gaze downward at Benjamin once more. Did you catch that, my dear? It seems you'll have to tolerate my presence for the time being. Yet in that moment, Arya came to a startling realization. Her presence was about more than just assisting Benjamin. A part of her longed to remain. For the very first time, a sense of being needed washed over her. Absolutely essential. Not merely as a spouse or a laborer or a placeholder, but as an individual capable of creating genuine impact. Benjamin let out a soft yawn, surrendering to the warmth of her embrace as he closed his eyes once more, feeling utterly at peace. Perhaps this wasn't the life Arya envisioned, but perhaps, just perhaps, it was the life she was destined to embrace. The horse belonging to the stranger was the most exquisite creature Arya had ever laid her eyes upon. Its sleek black coat gleamed like polished metal as it made its way up the dirt path to her cabin. Arya brushed flour from her hands and ventured outside, her heart racing with excitement. No one in Millbrook rode horses in that manner. This guest brought chaos. Are you the one looking after my brother's child? The voice cut through the air, crisp and frigid like the chill of winter's breath. Arya gazed up at the rider, her reality shifting unexpectedly. The woman possessed the same striking blue eyes and dark hair as Benjamin. She perched upright in her elegant saddle, adorned in attire that surpassed Arya's annual earnings. The morning sunlight glinted off the gold buttons. Her boots were genuine leather, unlike the tattered cloth ones Arya had mended 3 times. I'm Aurora Brennan, the woman declared, dismounting her horse with an air of authority that suggested she ruled the entire mountain. Mason was my sibling. Within the confines of the cabin, Benjamin began to weep. Arya's hands trembled at the sound of his voice. This captivating, affluent woman sought to whisk him away. Arya could perceive it in those icy blue eyes. Your brother left Benjamin here, Arya said, striving to maintain her composure. He has been my companion for 8 months now. Aurora chuckled, yet the sound lacked joy. Your guy? To him, you hold no significance. The words struck Arya with the force of a blow. She recalled the countless nights spent pacing the floor with Benjamin during his illness, the soothing lullabies she had sung to help him drift off, and the sacrifices made, pouring her resources into milk and medicine rather than nourishing herself. Benjamin is aware of who I am, Arya murmured softly. I am the sole mother he recalls. That is of no consequence. Aurora unzipped a leather bag and retrieved documents that exuded an air of authority. These indicate that I am his legal family, his true family. I'm bringing him back to Boston, his rightful place. Arya's legs felt unsteady. She plopped down forcefully on the wooden step. It's not as simple as just taking him. Observe me closely. Aurora carefully folded the papers and tucked them away. I possess wealth, legal counsel, an expansive residence with staff. I can offer him all that you were unable to provide. From beyond the cabin door, the sound of Benjamin's cries grew increasingly intense. He desired her. He required her presence. But what could she possibly do in the face of documents, attorneys, and wealth? He feels content here. Arya attempted once more. The physician confirms that he is in good health. He is in the process of mastering the art of walking. He chuckles whenever I serenade him. He'll discover joy in more meaningful melodies than those of the less fortunate. Aurora surveyed the quaint cabin, its patched roof and modest garden capturing her attention. Her nose crinkled as if she caught a whiff of something unpleasant. Observe this location. Every child deserves a better life than this. Arya experienced a surge of fury within her, blazing like an uncontrollable flame. This place radiates warmth and affection. That holds greater significance than extravagant possessions. Affection doesn't cover medical bills when kids fall ill. Affection doesn't provide cozy garments for the cold season. Affection alone doesn't ensure children receive a quality education. Aurora's voice grew more intense. I will be departing on the stagecoach Jackson Oro morning. The young lad accompanies me. Arya sprang to her feet with such urgency that she nearly lost her balance. Benjamin is his name, and he resides with me. We'll find out soon enough. Aurora mounted her horse once more. If you attempt to escape with him, I will ensure the sheriff is on your trail. I am acquainted with influential individuals. I will find you no matter what. Arya observed the elegant steed transporting Aurora back to town. Within the confines of the cabin, Benjamin's sobs intensified. She approached him and lifted him into her arms. What shall I do, dear one? She murmured into his gentle locks. What strategies can I use to confront someone like that? Benjamin gazed at her with those striking blue eyes, reminiscent of Mason and Aurora, yet infused with a trust that was uniquely Arya's. He extended his small hand and gently brushed her face. That night, Arya found herself unable to drift into slumber. As she strolled around the cabin cradling Benjamin, her mind was deep in thought. Aurora possessed wealth, documents, and the legal system in her favor. Arya possessed nothing but love. But what if love fell short? Her gaze fell upon her mother's silver locket resting on the table. It was the sole treasure in her possession. Perhaps she could part with it, earn some funds for legal representation. Yet beneath the surface, she understood it would make no difference. No judge would favor a less affluent woman over a wealthy family member. With the dawn breaking, Arya resolved to take a step that filled her with a fear unlike any she had ever experienced. She carefully gathered Benjamin's belongings into a compact bag. If she couldn't confront Aurora in court, perhaps she could vanish into the mountains. In the Colorado Territory, there were countless hiding spots, secluded enough that the sophisticated women from Boston would never discover them. Yet, just as she extended her hand toward the door handle, an unexpected scent wafted through the air, altering the course of her thoughts entirely. The morning air was shrouded in a thick gray haze. Arya burst out of the house, cradling Benjamin, her eyes widening as she beheld the orange flames flickering and swirling atop Henderson's general store. The flames raced through the streets, leaping from structure to structure with the ferocity of a ravenous beast. Flames! Flames! Individuals dashed in all directions, exclaiming and clutching containers. Men ascended ladders to douse the flames with water. Women swiftly gathered their children and hurried to safety. The entire town resembled a disturbed anthill. Arya dashed toward the bucket line, but Ella Mitchell seized her arm. Ella remarked that you are unable to assist with the baby. Keep your distance where it's secure. Yet Arya felt compelled to take action. The general store was the place where she purchased Benjamin's milk. Mr. Henderson had shown her kindness when others chose to speak unkindly. She passed Benjamin to Ella and dashed toward the flames. The warmth enveloped her face as if she had just swung open the door of a blazing oven. The acrid smoke stung her eyes and set her throat ablaze. She took a bucket from a nearby person and fell into the line of individuals transporting water from the well to the flames. Despite the ache in her arms from the heavy buckets, she persevered. It was at that moment that she caught sight of Aurora. The elegant woman from Boston joined the bucket line, her luxurious dress already soiled with soot and water, her flawless hair cascading freely around her face. She appeared to be the complete opposite of the icy figure who had menaced Arya the day before. "The place of learning!" A scream pierced the air. Arya pivoted and beheld the most dreadful sight imaginable. The flames from the general store had leapt to the small schoolhouse, but that wasn't the worst of it. The heartbreaking scene was the 3 children visible through the window, ensnared within as smoke seeped through the crevices. In a moment of instinct, Arya abandoned her bucket and sprinted toward the flames engulfing the school. Aurora's footsteps echoed closely behind her. "You open the door! I'll give the window a shot!" Aurora yelled above the chaos of the flames. Arya struck the wooden door with her foot. It was firmly lodged, expanded from the warmth. Aurora emerged next to her, wielding a rock, and shattered the window glass. United, they maneuvered through the shattered window into the hazy chamber. Within the confines, Arya found herself enveloped in darkness. The smoke enveloped everything, rendering sight a distant memory. She lowered herself to her hands and knees, seeking the slightly fresher air, and began to crawl ahead. "Present!" From the corner, Aurora's voice emerged. "I have discovered them." Arya inched closer to the sound, her heart racing as she sensed the warmth of small bodies clustered together. 3 young children, 2 girls and a boy, are in tears and coughing. The other girl was large enough to maneuver her way between them. Escaping proved to be more challenging than the initial entry. From the inside, the window appeared to be significantly elevated. Arya carefully guided the little girl through the shards of broken glass, ensuring she avoided any cuts. Aurora raised the boy's hands up into the air. The older girl stepped forward last, displaying a quiet bravery despite Arya's awareness of her underlying fear. As Arya emerged from the inferno, her lungs burned with an intensity that was almost unbearable. She coughed with such intensity that she was unable to stand upright. Aurora fell beside her, struggling to catch her breath. "Are they doing all right?" Arya inquired about the moment she would be able to speak. Dr. Mackenzie was examining the children. "They'll be all right," he shouted. "I appreciate your kindness as well." Arya gazed at Aurora, truly observing her for the very first time. The affluent woman's visage was darkened with soot. Her lavish dress was tattered and soiled. Her hands bled from the shards of broken glass. Yet her blue eyes, those of Benjamin, had transformed, carrying a gentler quality now.
"What motivated you to assist me?"
Arya inquired. Aurora remained silent for an extended period, observing Dr. Mackenzie as he tended to the children they had rescued. She finally admitted, "I arrived here believing you were merely a woman seeking my nephew for all the wrong reasons. Yet you dashed into a blazing structure to rescue kids who weren't even your own." Arya brushed away the soot that marred her face. "That's how you respond when children require assistance. You assist them." "Indeed," Aurora replied softly. "I understand that now." They huddled in the dirt, eyes fixed on the firefighters as they wrestled the flames into submission. The general store had vanished, yet the remaining structures had been preserved. Above all, they had rescued the children. Aurora spoke up. "I have something to tell you." Before departing the town, Mason penned a letter to me. He expressed his shame about abandoning Benjamin. He mentioned that he had entrusted his child to a mail-order bride who likely had little genuine concern for him. Arya felt a heavy weight in her chest. Even Mason had considered her to be just an ordinary person. However, Aurora persisted in her assertion. "You are truly exceptional. You are the mother of Benjamin, the sole maternal figure in his life. Observing you today, witnessing the trust this entire community places in you, and recognizing the risks you take for the sake of others' children." She hesitated. "I believe my brother made a foolish choice in leaving you both." Arya sensed the tears blending with the grime on her cheeks. "What does this imply?" Aurora stated that Benjamin is meant to be with you. But Arya, I possess wealth and assets. I would be glad to assist you both if you would allow me to. Ensure that you are always at ease regarding health care, proper attire, and nutritious meals. Arya envisioned the elegant horse, the lavish attire, the grand residence in Boston that Aurora had painted in her words. Are you inviting me to Boston? Aurora smiled, shaking her head gently. For the first time, she appeared gentle. I'm inquiring about the possibility of staying here occasionally. If I could take on the role of Benjamin's aunt, perhaps. Just as if he sensed their conversation, Benjamin's voice pierced through the crowd. Ella approached, cradling the baby who stretched his tiny arms out toward Arya. Arya embraced Benjamin tightly. He carried the scent of smoke, yet he was unharmed. What might she express to this woman who had the power to seize it all, yet opted to offer instead? As Aurora Brennan rode away from town, her horse stirred up swirling clouds of dust behind her. Yet Arya was certain she would come back. The affluent lady from Boston had expressed her desires unmistakably. She desired Benjamin, and she possessed the law as her ally. Arya perched on the steps of her cabin, observing Benjamin as he crawled through the dirt, pursuing a butterfly with the unadulterated joy that only infants can embody. In 3 hours, Aurora would return with documents from the territorial judge in Denver. Is Miss Arya here? Ella Mitchell emerged from the shadows of the cabin, her expression etched with concern. Whispers are circulating around the community. Some people are asserting that Aurora Brennan is fully justified in taking that baby. People are saying that you have rightfully claimed your role as his mother. Arya felt a knot in her Jacksonac. She understood where the true strength lay. What's your take on this, Ella? I believe that family is defined by more than just blood ties. Ella settled next to her. However, having a thought and substantiating it in a legal setting are distinctly separate matters. The distant thud of hooves sent a ripple of tension through both women. Aurora came back accompanied by 2 men. One sported a badge, while the other clutched a leather satchel that unmistakably hinted at his legal profession. Following them was Dr. Mackenzie, his face marked by the elements, bearing a somber expression. Good day, Mrs. Scarlett, the sheriff remarked, tipping his hat. I am Sheriff Reynolds. This is Mr. Nathaniel, the representative of the territorial judge. We must address the issue concerning the child. Arya rose gradually, her legs trembling beneath her. Benjamin is enjoying a peaceful afternoon nap. That's fine, Mr. Nathaniel said as he opened his satchel. This conversation can take place in a calm manner. He retrieved a stack of documents. Ms. Brennan has put forth persuasive evidence supporting her legal claim to the child. Being the sister of the deceased father, she holds rightful family claims. What about my entitlements? Arya's voice emerged with a strength that belied her true feelings. For 8 months, I have attended to Benjamin's needs, providing nourishment when he was hungry, offering comfort during his tears, and caring for him through his illnesses. You've accomplished remarkable work, Aurora remarked, and Arya sensed authentic admiration in her tone. However, Benjamin requires a solid foundation, learning experiences, and prospects that I can offer in Boston. Dr. Mackenzie advanced with purpose. Wait a moment, please. His Scottish accent became more pronounced when he was upset. For 2 decades, I've been practicing medicine in these mountains, and I've encountered countless children. The boy in there is flourishing thanks to Arya's nurturing attention. His weight is satisfactory, his development is on track, and his temperament is cheerful. Results like that are indisputable. The lawyer stated with a calm assurance that Ms. Scarlett's care is beyond reproach. However, the regulations are explicit regarding familial connections. Let's discuss family, a new voice interjected. All eyes were drawn to Reverend Patterson as he made his way forward, his black coat marked with the dust of a long journey. I had been exploring the mining camps, but upon hearing about this situation, I hurried back as quickly as possible. Arya felt a heavy weight in her chest. The Reverend had always disapproved of her being unmarried. Yet what he said next took her by surprise. Since I departed from town, thoughts of family have occupied my mind, particularly regarding the essence of parenthood. Is it the moment of birth, the bond of blood, or the ongoing commitment to love, safeguard, and make sacrifices for a child? He approached the group with measured steps. 2 months ago, I had the honor of baptizing Benjamin. Arya stood before the divine, and vowed to nurture that boy with faith and love. She approached those promises with great seriousness, and she has upheld them steadfastly. Aurora's expression revealed a mix of bewilderment and a hint of distress. You fail to grasp the situation. Mason was my little brother. After the loss of our parents, I took on the responsibility of raising him. I must have let him down in some way, or he wouldn't have found himself in this situation, leaving his child behind. I believed I could compensate for that shortcoming by providing Benjamin with all the things Mason never received. Arya spoke softly, noting that what Mason lacked was not wealth or prestigious education. It was a choice made by someone to remain. The phrases lingered in the atmosphere, reminiscent of wisps from a fading flame. Aurora's carefully crafted facade shattered, revealing the sorrow hidden within. Aurora whispered, "I love Mason, but I was just 18 when our parents passed away. I attempted to fulfill the roles of both mother and sister for him, but I fell short in both aspects. As he departed from Boston, I reassured myself that it was for the greater good, that he was on a journey to discover his own path." Her voice faltered. "I never composed, never explored. Upon hearing the news of his passing, it struck me that I had actually lost him long before that moment." Sheriff Reynolds cleared his throat with a hint of discomfort. "Madam, we must still resolve the legal issue at hand." Yet a change had occurred within the group of adults. Dr. Mackenzie placed his seasoned hand on Aurora's shoulder. "Loss drives us to act in ways that often defy logic. Yet removing that boy from the only mother he has ever known will not restore Mason."
What if?
Aurora's voice was a mere whisper. "What would happen if I decided to remain? For a period of time." "Have you met Benjamin and Arya as well?" The attorney appeared exasperated. "Miss Brennan, you possess legal rights that stand firm without the need for concession." "Perhaps there are matters that hold greater significance than legal entitlements," Aurora remarked. Gazing intently at Arya, it seems that some families are selected rather than simply created. Arya sensed a flicker of hope in her chest, reminiscent of Benjamin's butterfly. "Would you like to remain? Is this the right place? I could lease a home in the area, make frequent visits, and assist with costs." Aurora's words flowed more rapidly now, as though she feared the silence that might follow. "Benjamin ought to be aware of the positive aspects of Mason. Perhaps, just perhaps, I could discover the true essence of what it means to be family." Ella Mitchell smiled brightly. "That definitely sounds like a sensible conversation." The lawyer closed his satchel with a clear sense of annoyance. "This is quite unusual." Arya remarked that a mail-order bride was becoming a mother to an abandoned baby. "However, just because something is irregular doesn't imply that it is incorrect." Sheriff Reynolds tilted his hat back. "It appears that you all have figured this out on your own. No need for a judge in that case." As the men readied themselves to depart, Aurora hesitated. "Arya, I must express my sincere apologies to you. I arrived with the impression that you were merely a woman in need, clinging to the first semblance of stability that came your way. I admit my mistake. What influenced your decision?" Aurora beamed. For the first time, Arya noticed a warmth in those blue eyes, reminiscent of Benjamin's. "Yesterday, amidst the flames, you entrusted your infant to an unknown person, rushing into a blazing structure to rescue children you had never encountered. That's not a sign of urgency. That is bravery." The gentle sound of Benjamin stirring from his nap drifted from the cabin, a soft babble that brought smiles to both women's faces. "Let's go," Arya urged. "It's time to rouse your nephew in the right way." Spring had adorned the Colorado mountains in hues of green that Arya had never imagined, while Benjamin's laughter resonated through the meadow behind their newly enlarged cabin. At the age of 2, he followed Aurora with the tenacity of a prospector in search of treasure, his pudgy hands stretching out for the wildflowers she collected. "Aunt Maggie! Aunt Maggie!" he called, the sound resonating beautifully in the crisp mountain air. Arya beamed as she draped the laundry across the line that Aurora had assisted her in setting up between 2 towering pine trees. The sight of her son, for that was what Benjamin had truly become, playing with his aunt filled her with a sense of fulfillment she had never thought possible back in the smoky factories of Chicago. "Arya." The sound of Ella Mitchell's voice resonated from afar. As she strolled along the path, her youngest daughter, Emma, joyfully skipped beside her. received some updates from the town. In Millbrook, news typically signified one of three possibilities. One person found fortune, another entered into matrimony, while yet another faced the end of life. Arya cleaned her hands on her apron and paused, anticipation hanging in the air. Ella announced, slightly out of breath from the uphill walk, that the territorial government is sending a new teacher for the school. A young man from Denver expresses his desire to initiate classes for the younger kids as well, not solely for the older children. Arya's heart raced. She had taken it upon herself to teach Benjamin his letters and numbers. Yet, the concept of a well-structured education filled her with enthusiasm. What time is his arrival? In the coming week. Aurora has been inquiring throughout the town about it. She appears quite curious about the type of education Benjamin will receive. As though her name had conjured her presence, Aurora emerged from behind the cabin, with Benjamin perched on her shoulders like a diminutive monarch. The refined Boston lady who had come 6 months prior had evolved into a person Arya could hardly identify. Her lavish gowns were swapped out for functional skirts and sturdy boots. Her once pale hands had transformed into strong, sun-kissed tools of labor, shaped by the toil of garden work and cabin repairs. "Did I catch wind of discussions regarding the new teacher?" Aurora inquired, gently lowering Benjamin with care. "Ella mentioned that his name is William Harper, recently graduated from Teachers College. Rumor has it he has fresh concepts regarding the education of children." "Mom, check this out!" Benjamin proudly presented a handful of crushed dandelions, his face radiating joy at the offering. "They're stunning, darling," Arya remarked, receiving the withered blooms as though they were treasured gems. "Should we immerse them in water?" As they strolled toward the cabin, Aurora matched her pace with Arya's. The gentle bond had gradually blossomed throughout the winter months. Aurora rented the quaint little house behind the general store, making daily visits and slowly weaving herself into Benjamin's everyday life. Beyond that, she had formed a friendship with Arya, an outcome neither of them had anticipated. "Yesterday I got a letter from Boston," Aurora said softly. Arya felt a knot form in her Jackson act. She had been anticipating this moment with a sense of foreboding, aware that Aurora's former life would inevitably beckon her return. "My business partner is urging me to come back. Contracts await signatures and decisions loom ahead." Aurora hesitated. "The organization is performing adequately, yet it requires focus." They arrived at the cabin's porch. Benjamin swiftly ascended the steps, engaging in a lively monologue about flowers and butterflies. Arya sank onto the wooden step, a wave of fatigue washing over her. "When are you planning to depart?" "I wanted to bring that up with you." Aurora settled next to her, their shoulders brushing in a warm, easy camaraderie. "I've been contemplating the idea of selling my stake in the business." Arya gazed intently at her. "Are you looking to sell? However, it belongs to you, your safeguard." "My security has arrived," Aurora stated plainly, "accompanied by Benjamin, together with you." "I never anticipated rediscovering family, Arya, but that's precisely what has occurred. Yet your entire existence revolves around Boston." Aurora chuckled, yet there was no trace of bitterness in her laughter. "My entire existence revolved around toil and solitude, striving to demonstrate that I possess the same intellect as the men eager to sabotage my enterprise. Here, I rise with anticipation to discover what Benjamin will uncover today, or if your Jacksonados will at last reach their peak, or whether Mrs. Henderson will finally acknowledge her need for spectacles to read her Bible." Arya cautioned that tranquility isn't a constant companion. The winter season proved to be quite challenging. Challenges will arise, including illness, mishaps, and inclement weather. This is not the society of Boston. "Thank goodness for that," Aurora declared with conviction. "I explored the Boston social scene. It left me feeling hollow." Benjamin wobbled over, clutching a stick he had discovered, presenting it to Arya with the same earnestness he had displayed with the flowers. She took it with a serious demeanor which made him chuckle. Aurora pressed on, revealing another layer. "I've been discussing the necessary medical supplies with Dr. Mackenzie and exploring potential enhancements for the school with Reverend Patterson. I have funds in banks that are inactive when they could be making a difference for people in need." Arya was engulfed by a wave of emotions. "Aurora, there's no need for that. Absolutely I do." Aurora's voice carried a steady yet soothing quality. "Mason fled from accountability. I dedicated years to pursuing it, Yet I never discovered anything deserving of my commitment. At this moment, I have Benjamin, you, and the entire community with me. I wish to put my resources into everything. What happens when Benjamin matures? When does he yearn to explore the world beyond these mountains? Aurora beamed. We will ensure he is well educated and brimming with confidence to explore any path he desires, while also instilling in him the understanding that he always has a place to return to. The rhythmic thud of hooves drew their attention away from the discussion. A young man approached along the path, his tall, slender frame accentuated by wire-rimmed spectacles and attire that clearly identified him as the new teacher Ella had spoken of. "Good afternoon, ladies," he greeted, dismounting with deliberate movements that hinted at his lack of ease on horseback. "Greetings. I am William Harper, the newly appointed schoolmaster. I'm reaching out to families with children to make my introduction." Arya rose, adjusting the fabric of her skirt with a delicate touch. "My name is Arya Scarlett, and alongside me is Aurora Brennan. This young man goes by the name Benjamin." Benjamin, bold and unreserved, approached the stranger and extended the stick he had been holding. William received it with the seriousness it warranted. "A splendid stick, Benjamin. Is this where you reside?" "Mama Arya and Aunt Maggie," Benjamin declared with pride. William's eyebrows lifted just a bit, yet his smile stayed inviting. "I understand. So, Benjamin, are you interested in joining the other kids to explore letters and numbers?" Arya replied swiftly. "He already knows some. I have been instructing him." "Outstanding. An early advantage is always beneficial." William focused his gaze on Aurora. "Miss Brennan, I see that you hail from Boston." "Some," Aurora responded thoughtfully. "I'm curious about the opportunities that will be accessible for the children in this place." "That's precisely why I aim to converse with families one-on-one," William expressed, his excitement clear. "I hold the conviction that education ought to be accessible to every child no matter their situation. I've come across some incredible tales regarding this young man's family, and I am determined to make sure he has every chance to thrive." Arya experienced a well-known constriction in her chest. Even compassion can bear a sense of judgment. "What tales have reached your ears?" William's demeanor shifted to one of gravity. "I came across a remarkable story of a woman who prioritized love above all else, creating a family from the ground up in situations that would have overwhelmed most. Courage, sacrifice, and the vibrant community spirit that defines the greatness of small towns have come to my attention." He fixed his gaze on Arya. "It brings me great pride to have the opportunity to teach Benjamin." The constriction in Arya's chest eased, giving way to a sensation that was warm and filled with hope. "Next week, a community meeting will be held to address the needs of the school," William continued. "I sincerely hope you both can make it. Your contribution would be greatly appreciated." Once he departed, Arya and Aurora lingered in a serene quietude, observing Benjamin as he pursued a butterfly through the meadow. The sun dipped low behind the mountains, casting a warm glow across the sky in hues of pink and gold. "Are you truly sincere about that?" Arya inquired at last. "Regarding the possibility of remaining?" "I truly mean it," Aurora stated with conviction. "Boston will carry on just fine, but Benjamin truly needs his aunt, and I find myself yearning for my family." Arya extended her hand, gently grasping Aurora's, marking the first moment of genuine affection she had ever shown to the woman she had once dreaded, would claim everything she held dear. Then, she said simply, "Welcome home." As if aware of the significance of the moment, Benjamin left his pursuit of butterflies behind and hurried to them, settling into Arya's lap with the unwavering trust of a child who has always known he is cherished. The letter that had summoned Arya to the west had assured her of a husband and a fresh beginning. She had discovered neither, yet both. The husband lingered only in forgotten vows, yet the fresh journey unfolded before her like the expansive Colorado sky, brimming with opportunities she had never dared to envision. In the distance, the evening train let out a haunting whistle as it journeyed toward Denver, transporting fellow dreamers into the realm of uncertain futures. However, Arya had already returned home.